So at the Family Domestic Violence Law Clinic, we strive to have a caseload that is diverse in its facts, but also in the legal issues that they present. Some of the common themes, however, in these cases are that most of our clients are self-identified victims of domestic violence. They are mostly also low income and are going through some process in the litigation, whether it be for divorce, restraining orders, or a paternity case. So one case I'd like to tell you about is a case that went to trial last year. It was about a client who was the victim of abuse and had a history of physical abuse from the father of their child. And she had escaped to Massachusetts, where she had some family members, to start over and away from the perpetrator. However, he did come to visit her in Massachusetts and to visit their daughter, and continued his abuse when he did come to visit. Our client then filed for child support and other financial supports from him, as he was an engineer in Texas who was earning upwards of $150,000 a year with bonuses on top of that. Most of the case related to custody of their daughter, as well as the calculation for the child support. We had to do a lot of discovery to prove that his income was as high as it was, and we had to subpoena documents that related to employment offer letters, acceptance letters, tax records, and such that the opposing party was trying to hide from us. We also needed to establish in the trial the history of domestic violence as it related to the child custody issues. At the end, our client was able to get a child support order that was much higher, given the income that we were able to prove for the opposing counsel. But also, she was able to retain her sole legal custody of her child due to the history of abuse from the father.
The Family Law Domestic Violence Clinic handles a wide variety of family law issues. We are a collaboration with the Passageway program at the Brigham and Women's Hospital, so most of our referrals, our client referrals, are through that program. Usually, most cases have domestic violence issues presenting and need legal assistance of some kind. That can be anything from restraining orders, both emergency orders or extension orders, can be representation in a divorce or any part of a divorce action, post-divorce issues such as contempts or modifications, paternity issues, child custody issues, and also child support matters. So there's really a wide variety of cases and types of cases that we handle. One recent example of a case that we handled was a full representation divorce, where we represented the wife shortly after she had obtained a restraining order against her husband. And during that process, she had been unrepresented and by herself through the restraining order hearing, and that was really difficult for her. So when we came on board as a legal services center representing her, we were able to do the whole discovery process, negotiation process, and be her advocates throughout the course of the process with a very difficult opposing attorney and a very difficult opposing party in the future ex-husband. The case culminated actually during the COVID-19 pandemic and was set down for trial in person. So I went with one of our students to the court in person with our client for trial, wearing masks and everything, and following many COVID protocols to get there. But we were able to go and put pressure on the day of trial to get a much more favorable settlement for our client. We got about $50,000 more than they were initially offering in terms of a division of the marital home, and also more favorable terms in terms of what our client wanted in custody. She ended up getting full legal and physical custody of her child, which may not have happened if we had gone to trial. So this is just one example of how having representation in a domestic violence situation can really make a huge difference. If our client had no counsel throughout that process, she would have been having to negotiate herself with the opposing attorney, who was very aggressive on behalf of his client. And so we were able to provide her full representation through the whole process and obtain a favorable resolution in the end, where she was able to get divorced and retain all legal decision-making authority of the couple's child. So that's just one example of the many types of cases we do, but please reach out if you have any questions.
Hi, Rebecca.
Hi, Marianna.
So part of this recording is to talk about why this work is important and why it matters. So why do you do this work, Rebecca?
So the work of our clinic is a collaboration with Passageway at Brigham and Women's Hospital, which are the social service provider in the community, and they're based locally around the Legal Services Center in different health centers and other locations. And they provide the majority of our referrals to our clinic. So it's really a unique opportunity to provide legal services when people really need them. These are situations where people need restraining orders. They need to move forward on breaking up and getting away from an abusive partner and situation. So these are really opportunities for us to use our skills as lawyers and law students to help people who are really in need of legal services.
And I'm just going to ask a question, and what happens when people who have legal needs but don't have counsel?
So in most of our cases, there's no right to an attorney. So somebody who's going through divorce doesn't get a court-appointed attorney. If they don't have counsel, they have to move through that process alone, and that's called pro se representation, representing themselves. And as you can imagine, going through a stressful situation like an abusive relationship, that can be really difficult. And you have to deal with your abusive partner on the other side of the case if they're representing themselves too. So this is a way to give people advocates, partners through the process, zealous advocates who can represent their interests, and also give them the support of social services, social workers through the Passageway program, so that they can have some of their other needs met, their therapeutic and other needs that they'll have, oftentimes housing or access to resources in the community, benefits, things like that.
Yeah, and then a second part of our work is to work with the students, obviously, and provide an experience with real cases, and have law students who are learning how litigation works or who want to participate in this demographic of clients, as well as just litigation and having in-court experience, have that opportunity through our clinic, right?
Absolutely. This is a really great clinic to have hands-on experience. You have direct client interaction. You're not doing just doc review in a basement. You're actually working with a client, having direct responsibility for their case. And in our work in family law, that's really their life. It's not just a case. It's what's going on in their lives. So it can be very emotional. It can be very challenging, but it's a really good opportunity to see how legal skills can be used in real life situations to make a difference. And I think that that's one of the biggest things that law students can get from a clinic, is to see the impact of the law in people's lives. Because regardless of where you land and end up with your career, you're going to see how the law has disparate impacts on different populations. And oftentimes our clients, when they come to us, are in really challenging situations and they really need help.
Yeah, and I find that many of our students know that this is not the type of work that they're going to be doing, that they'll be in law firms and in the public sector or other fields that will not give them the experience that they're going to get from here. And that's precisely the reason that they seek out this experience, and that, they know that it's something that they're not going to get elsewhere.
Yeah, the skills are really transferable and I think very marketable, especially for when you go off to try to do other internships or summer associate programs or things like that. Having direct client experience, I found personally in my own interviewing experience is one of the things that people interviewing you are most interested about hearing, and you'll be able to talk about your experience representing clients and the unique challenges that come with that. And I think that that's especially that plus courtroom experience, which we don't promise in the clinic, but oftentimes occurs for our students, even if it's virtual experience. We don't know what land we're going to be in, but is hugely valuable in terms of marketable skills moving forward.